Hello, friends. Today on Mindful Mutiny, I'm interviewing David Cruz, who went through his own health crisis and found that the ketogenic diet is something that helped change his life. He speaks passionately about his own journey, his own surgeries, his own journey with what this kind of diet can do to help you. He's about education. He's about helping you understand how your body works and how to make your body function at its peak potential. So enjoy Mindful Mutiny today. It's really, really great today. Welcome, Dave Cruz, to the Mindful Mutiny Podcast. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much, Jeremy. I appreciate your time. Thank you for allowing me to be on here on this platform with you. I'm so excited for our conversation today.
Yeah, I'm super excited too because what you and I talked about before is something that I'm really fired up about, and it's about health in the United States, the way that we look at health, your own health journey. And so I'm going to go rip through a bio here, and then we're going to get right into your own personal journey. David Cruz's journey with health began after a life-altering diagnosis with diverticulitis, which led to an emergency surgery to remove 20% of his colon in 2017. Despite following traditional dietary advice, his health did not improve until he discovered the healing potential of a ketogenic lifestyle. Under the guidance of a nutritional therapy practitioner named Carrie Danielson, David adopted a ketogenic reset, leading to rapid transformation, losing 50 pounds in just 8 weeks without exercise. His experience has shaped his belief that while long-term ketogenic lifestyle may not be for everyone, a short-term ketogenic reset can have profound therapeutic benefits. Now Dave shares his story to inspire others to take control of their health through informed nutritional choices. And I want to be clear about this. This episode is about bringing you information about health, about nutrition, about how the system works. This is not medical advice telling you exactly what it is that you need to do. Your health is in your hands. This brings you options and things that have worked for a lot of people. But of course, you need to consult specialists around you. And David can be one of those specialists if you're interested in that. And all of the information for David is shared in the description of this episode. And so, first off, David, I'd like to get into your story, but can you just start by explaining what is a ketogenic lifestyle?
Yes, absolutely. And to add on, yes, this is not medical advice. Uh, I encourage you to seek advice from your medical professional when it comes to switching up your nutrition, but not drinking alcohol. If you want to drink alcohol, you don't have to ask your doctor. It's totally fine. Okay. And so so we're going to start off by sharing my experience. Is that what you just sorry? Just train of thought.
Yeah, absolutely. First, I wanted to go into the ketogenic lifestyle. What is
Gotcha.
ketogenic? Yeah.
Gotcha. So, what's really interesting is that ketosis is a metabolic state. It's actually not a diet. Did you know that we're born in ketosis? And for the first
No.
2 years of our life, we're supposed to be fed mother's breast milk. And what's inside mother's breast milk? Fat, saturated fat. The fat that the FDA regulated food pyramid guide tells us to stay away from. And why are we supposed to be uh, having mother's breast milk for the first 2 years of our life as an infant? Well, for brain development, right? So a ketogenic diet is not a diet. It's simply a metabolic state in which we have the ability to tap into. Let me ask you this, Jeremy, and I'm sure you've heard this a million times before. I'm sure you've heard someone say, "Oh, I have a fast or a slow metabolism," right?
Of course.
Yeah, and that's insinuating we have one metabolism. What if I told you we have three metabolisms? We just have to know how to tap into it. So, when you are utilizing fat cis proteins as your primary source of fuel, you are producing specific hormones. Okay. When you utilize carbs and sugars as your primary source of fuel, you are producing specific hormones. So, when you eliminate carbs and sugars, you give your body the ability to switch its metabolic pathways to now providing a different source of energy. And ketones are a physical and mental energy, right? But when you minimize your fat intake and you utilize carbs and sugars as your primary source of fuel, you're no longer in a metabolic state of ketosis. Now, wouldn't you agree, Jeremy, that everyone and their grandma has heard of the ketogenic diet or ketosis?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Okay, and probably only about 1% of the population is in ketosis. So if only 1% of people in the world, or let's just talk about the US, right, are in a metabolic state of ketosis, what's the other 99%? What are we? And no one can answer this. Don't,
Yeah, I don't know.
you go to an MD, you talk to a nutritionist, you talk to a registered dietitian, and you ask them this question, they can't tell you. Well, if you're not in a metabolic state of ketosis, you're now in a metabolic state of glycolysis. And if you're in a metabolic state of glycolysis by utilizing carbs and sugars as your primary source of fuel for 5 years or longer, and you don't exercise, or if you're active, it's a pretty high potential rate that you're actually going to become insulin resistant. And now, unfortunately, right now, 97% of America is insulin resistant. That's just a fancy way of saying in a state of carbohydrate toxicity, right? Kind of like alcohol tolerance. The first time we had a drink of alcohol, we probably felt a buzz, right? But over time, you need more and more and more as you're chasing that buzz. When you reverse insulin resistance, resistant to carbs and sugars, you become insulin sensitive. On your journey to insulin sensitivity, by doing a short-term ketogenic reset, our primary metabolic state in which we were born in, you can then achieve metabolic flexibility, which is the third metabolism. So we're born in ketosis, and when you're born, the doctor is going to say, "Oh, your blood glucose levels are too low. Let's inject you with some glucose to raise your blood sugar levels." Right? I mean, from birth. And then we have glycolysis, which you use carbs and sugars as your primary source of fuel. And then we have our third metabolic state, which is basically the gold standard of metabolism. The gold standard of metabolism is metabolic flexibility. Let me put it to you like this. I'm sure you've heard of the term keto flu, right?
Mm-hmm.
Many people have heard the term keto flu. Well, when you first eliminate carbs and sugars, most people feel like this withdrawal issues, withdrawal symptoms. It's just kind of like getting rid of alcohol or cocaine for a short period of time because scientists have discovered that carbs and sugars is 26 times more addictive than cocaine. Interesting, right?
Wow. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So when you go through these withdrawal symptoms and you've switched your metabolic pathways into utilizing fats and proteins, you're now in a metabolic state of ketosis. So when you're in ketosis for a short period of time, you can actually have carbs and they no longer affect you in the negative way in which one was when they were insulin resistant. So ketosis is our primary state of metabolism in which we're born in.
Now you've learned so much about this and you're like throwing out all of this stuff, but it's taken you years to get to this space and your own personal health journey. And so let's go back to like 2015, 2016. What are you starting to feel bad? Did something happen during an examination? How did you learn that there's something wrong with you?
Yeah, good question. I've had the bodybuilder's diet for so many years, right? Which is chicken breast, brown rice, and some green veggies. So I actually ate really healthy, very healthy, right? A lot of brown rice, chicken breast, and some green vegetables. So back in 2015 is when I was in Newport Beach. I ended up in Hoag Hospital, and I had cramps in my stomach and my digestive tract, and it was really really painful. So that's the first time I actually went into the emergency room. After being in the hospital for about 2 days, the doctors didn't say I had diverticulitis at that time. They just said that I had digestive issues, that I should eat better. I was like, what? I eat the bodybuilder's diet: chicken breasts, broccoli, asparagus, and brown rice. So they didn't give me any answers. So uh, a year later, I'm now in Boise, Idaho in 2016. And then at the end of 2016, I started having those flare-ups again. I ended up going to the doctor and they said, "Oh my goodness, you have diverticulitis. We need to do emergency surgery." And I was like, "Oh, okay. When? Tonight? Tomorrow?" They're like, "No, in about 2 weeks from now." I was like, "Okay, all right, emergency surgery in 2 weeks from now."
So what's the test for diverticulitis? What should this have been noticed earlier?
Yeah, so I had a colonoscopy in 2015,
All right.
but they didn't say anything. And then I had another one in 2016, and that's when they told me. Yeah.
And this is the one in
So
Boise.
this is the one here in Boise at St. Luke's. So I ended up they gave me a colonoscopy, and then basically ended up sharing with me that I have a lot of inflammation in my gastrointestinal tract,
Uh-huh.
and that I needed to get it removed because it was severe, and they said that I was susceptible to my stomach exploding.
Is it your personal belief that this was something that was missed the time before in a way it should not have been missed?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. And it was not only was it missed, but the advice that they gave me to go home, and even after my surgery, when I had 20% of my colon removed after being in the hospital for 5 days towards the end of 2016, the doctor came into the room and said, "Oops, sorry, you still got it." It's like, what? Right? Oops. And then she said, "In another 6 to 8 months, I want you to come back in and we're going to remove about another 15 to 20%. And for the next 3 to 4 weeks, I want you to have bread, rice, and pudding. No protein, no fiber." And I couldn't believe it. I was beyond myself. So instead of listening to their advice, I contacted my good friend, mentor, Carrie Danielson. And she said, "David, if you want to live without a colostomy bag hanging out your side, you're going to have to figure out how to heal your gut and then adopt a non inflammatory nutrition lifestyle." And I asked her, "Well, what's that?" She said, "Keto." And I was like, "What's that?" Right. So unfortunately, I was that asshole in the gym because my background is I used to be the general manager and I used to do a lot of selling, personal training, and I'd motivate people to exercise like a barbarian all the time, right? So I used to always give the horrible advice that as long as you exercise hard, it doesn't matter what you eat, right? And so a couple of years later, I end up with that inflammation in my stomach and had a horrible experience. And so at that point, I realized it's all about nutrition. So when she said I need to adopt a non inflammatory nutrition lifestyle, keto, I had no idea what she was talking about. So a 5 minute conversation created a spark to learn and really, really learn because it was literally life or death for me. That's how I felt. And so that created an obsession that allowed me to go down the rabbit hole. And within a few weeks, I was able to put this to practice and actually start gaining traction. And I ended up just losing 50 pounds in 8 weeks with zero exercise. Yeah. So
Yeah, so
it
the
was a
medicals,
crazy experience.
what I'm hearing is like the medical system was one where they weren't particularly proactive on what your diet is and how that affects your body being able to heal itself. It was more of a, yeah, go easy on your digestive tract. If we need to remove more next time, we'll do it. Whereas Carrie Danielson, is that
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
She was able to go, this is the way to actually heal your gut, build a more healthy system to naturally from the inside out heal this, which
Yes.
is frankly quite astonishing to me that we have this view of our medical system in the United States being this kind of gold standard of care, But this is more often the experience that people have, that there is a bit of a rush to the knife versus more natural healing. And I certainly see this in psychiatry too, as far
Yeah,
as medical intervention, give you pills versus changing your lifestyle.
yeah. I just recently discovered that there's actually a pyramid to health in the Western medicine MD system. Um, at the very, very bottom, the foundation is prescription medication. And at the very top, it's surgery. Man, I wish I had that I'm gonna have to uh, pull that information up and share it with you. It's quite astonishing. It's scary. It really, really is scary as far as their
Disturbing.
pyramid of health. Yeah, it's disturbing, right? So Carrie having the information that she knows, so she is a functional nutrition therapy practitioner and a restorative wellness gastrointestinal health practitioner. So in short, she's a gut expert.
Right.
So within 5 minutes, she was able to paint a clear picture of exactly what it is that I need to do. She gave me a lot of information, and then I had to figure out how to put it in practice, right? Um, and so, it was a really amazing experience to actually hear, like, no, David, there is a way that you can actually overcome this condition. So from that point on, and what I ended up experiencing on my own, I ended up posting a before and after picture on social media, not thinking anything, just wanted to share people, my success story. And then quickly, I had many people asking me for advice. It's like, wait a minute, I'm not a trained professional. I can only give so much advice. And so that was the point where I realized I had to go and get certified with Dr. Eric Berg in nutrition healing. And then, which is basically the foundation of my education when it comes to insulin management, right? And so basically, what I do is I educate people on insulin, understanding what it is, understanding that it's the master hormone. And what I mean by that is insulin is truly the metabolic switch. Your body is either in a state of survival, right, being insulin resistance, or in a state in which you're actually now able to thrive or heal, which is insulin sensitivity. And so before, the name of my program used to be called the Ketogenic Reset. Okay. But with a name like the Ketogenic Reset, people think all I do is focus on ketosis, which is further from the truth. I teach 5 different nutrition lifestyles. And the reason why I teach 5 different nutrition lifestyles is because I don't believe we're supposed to be in ketosis for the rest of our life. Right. So that's why I had to rebrand to Total Metabolic Solutions.
So now you do the ketogenic reset. You're doing this under uh, the the care of this nutritional therapist. You go back to your doctor, your body has changed, everything has changed. What happens when you go back to the doctor and your body has changed, everything is different? What do they say?
It's a great question and then a hilarious answer. I go to them and I tell them the differences in nutrition that I've made. I am not taking any medication, um, and end up sharing with them what I'm doing. And all they had to respond was with fear-based information like, oh, you're eating high fats, you're not having carbs. Oh my goodness, your blood sugar levels are going to drop and you could potentially pass out. You need carbohydrates, right? And then I just quickly share with them, like, hey, look at me. I feel great. I'm in great shape. And they just couldn't believe it. And it was almost as if they didn't want to hear me. And so now I know things are changing. It's the year 2025, right? This was eight years ago. And now that I'm working with so many people with many conditions, such as cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, you know, high blood pressure, hypertension, and other scenarios of metabolic dysfunction. And more doctors are actually now starting to reach out to me and saying, "Hey, what are you doing? How are you doing this? How are you overcoming these obstacles?" So I'm happy to say, I'm so pleased to say that more MDs are now receptive to actually hearing the information and considering a different way. So it's really, really cool.
Yeah, in my master's program to be a therapist, we had a full course on psychopharmacology and how what the medicines are that can help people, what the and in no time during this or any other course was it covered the 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 value of spirituality, the value of exercise, the value of nutrition, these things in the way that it helps your brain heal and your lifestyle for you to feel loved, to you to be a part of a community or anything like that. We studied the brain and how it reacts to certain compounds that are generally created by big companies, but we didn't study the kinds of things that one would generalize through history refer to as things that create good health: humor, community, good relationships, great friends, singing, dancing, great food,
All of it.
late nights by the fire, these kinds of things, which are way more important as a long-term thing than the medicine. And you're standing in front of people who have to do a certain number of continuing education units to renew their license every couple of years, and you're talking about the system in a way that is making them go, I can't relate to this. I don't know what this is. I know what I've been taught about what the balance of food is and what pills we can give you to help you with things that you're deficient in. But this scares us because we're not familiar with it. But they're being a little bit more open-minded now. What do you think is changing this?
I think with so much information online, and what we're experiencing nowadays with media, I mean, there's so much media, right? And
Sure.
I'm happy and sad to say that there's a lot of information out there that there's a lot of misinformation, I believe. But then, as long as you know who to research, what to research, we can find the answers, right? But we got to do some searching and some soul searching at that. I'm so glad you brought up spirituality, right? Because part of my practice, what I do is I focus on nutrition, supplementation, intermittent fasting, and then mindset through breath work. I like to always tell people, yeah, I practice meditation, but I don't just sit down and meditate, right? I have my practices that I have to do to get into a meditative state. So when I practice breath work and I take my clients through breath work, they gain so much more clarity, not only on the overall big picture of life, but also small things that they can do to improve their life day by day by day. And I talk a lot about biohacking. And sometimes people get confused by biohacking. They think it's some huge, crazy thing that you do. And I say, no, a prime example of biohacking is that, let's just say, for instance, today you take 10,000 steps. If you take 10,001 steps tomorrow, you're hacking your biology. You're taking small incremental steps to make an overall improvement. And over time, that's drastically going to change your anatomy, your physiology, your nervous system, your mental capacity, growth in other areas of your life. And so I like to say that I share with my clients the benefits of spirituality, um, without getting too woo woo or woo wee, right? But I love that stuff. I mean, I get down on that stuff. And as clients begin opening up, then we can actually start having those conversations, because people are coming to me because they're trying to get off of medications. People are coming to me because they know that they've tried everything else, and so they're hoping nutrition is going to work. And so when we get into the breath work and we get into those conversations, they light up. And I say, you see, it's not just about doing all of these, it's not just about nutrition, it's not just about supplementation. It's about opening up your mind and expanding that there is another way and feeling confident and creating more faith within inside of them so that they realize that if they're not feeling good, then it kind of doesn't matter what they do. They have to feel good. And that conversation starts through breath work and opening up the conversations around spirituality.
It it really does. And the spirit is one of those things that I definitely work with people because it's not necessarily seen as one of the major pillars of psychiatry. And the history of psychiatry was made up by atheists studying the
Whoa.
oh yeah, for sure. Studying the way that human beings behave. It was very behavioral. There was Carl Jung who did kind of go a little bit into, I think there's a little bit more here than just simply humans as animals and observing stages and so forth. But the early part of it was mainly developed by behaviorists who observed human beings as if they were kind of lab rats. And a lot of that fed into how people are observed now in the way that medication is prescribed and so forth. You know, but there's so much more about what real health is. And so I don't want to lose this track in what you and I are talking about here during the day. What does a keto diet look like? What do you generally eat?
Gotcha. So when people are trying to overcome insulin resistance, the ketogenic diet primarily is eliminating carbs and sugars, right? It's not so much what a ketogenic diet is, it's how do we get into a metabolic state of ketosis? We get into a metabolic state of ketosis by eliminating carbs and sugars for a short period of time. And the transition is you're utilizing proteins, fats, and vegetables. And many people would probably be like, oh, you got to make sure you say healthy fats. Well, I mean, there's really no such thing as healthy fats because canola, I mean, there's no such thing as unhealthy fats because canola oil and vegetable oil were created in the 1800s for cars. We were never meant to consume canola oil and vegetable oil, right? So so what are healthy fats? All fats except for canola oil, vegetable oil, and like seed oils, right? So avocados, avocado oil, high quality extra virgin olive oil, coconut oil, grass fed butter, ghee, in moderation, bacon, right? Ground beef, steak, chicken, fattier pieces of protein such as chicken thighs, salmon, prime rib, all eggs, all of the fats that we're told to stay away from. So yeah, I mean, pretty much what I eat on a daily basis and what my clients eat to maintain ketosis is amazing protein, some vegetables, and a lot of healthy fats.
What was that diet that was really popular about 15 years ago? The caveman diet? Do you know what?
Paleo or Atkins?
Paleo, yeah. So number one, my wife and I did paleo for about 2 years, and we felt great. How is this different from paleo? Because it feels like it's kind of close to that.
Great. That's a great question, which is exactly why I teach 5 different nutrition lifestyles, right? So at the end of the day, there we talk about all these different diets, right? It's kind of like, all right, well, what are we trying to achieve here? However, at the end of the day, knowing that there's 2 metabolic pathways or 3 once you achieve that gold standard, right? But you're either in a metabolic state of glycolysis or you're in a metabolic state of ketosis. Now, the difference between keto and paleo is that paleo, you're utilizing more carbohydrates and healthy sugars, right? So like honey and certain grains, but they're all mid to low glycemic. In paleo, like keto, you're eliminating processed foods. You're eliminating high glycemic carbs, which elevate your blood sugar levels really high and really fast, such as white rice, um, fake breads, uh, pasta, and even in moderation, potatoes. And you start utilizing sweet potatoes, yams, quinoa, beans, right? All of these are approved on the paleo diet. So, what's the difference between paleo and Mediterranean? Not a whole lot, except for in the Mediterranean diet, you're utilizing more fats, healthy fats, extra virgin olive oil, coconut oil. And in the Mediterranean diet, they want you to kind of stay away from red meats. And in paleo, it's red meats in moderation, right? So that's the biggest difference.
So one of the things that I noticed when I was doing the paleo is just how hard it is to find real food.
Mm,
And particularly my wife used to make paleo bread, which was really yummy and tasted very different than the store-bought bread. And the store-bought bread, I started turning it over and looking at what is in the bread, and I found it almost impossible, and in some cases totally impossible, to find a single loaf of bread on the shelf at the store that didn't have some form of garbage in it. And a lot of this garbage is meant to make it shelf ready so it can sit there for a couple of weeks as needed to be bought. And all of this doesn't necessarily mean I want that in my body. But
yeah.
the so much of the bread that is made is filled with nonsense. Even the stuff that is packaged to look healthy and has a picture of a tree on it or something like that. Can you talk about the state of the food that we're eating? I know that there's a lot being talked about right now with regard to Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s new approach to what nutrition should be looking like. Yeah, absolutely. He's got a very, very nutrition-based approach to this, and not necessarily a let's give you some pills to make you healthy approach to all of this. I love that coffee cup, by the way. It looks like it's 6 gallons. And can you talk about the state of our food, the convenience of our food, what it's doing to people's bodies and their brains?
Absolutely. I love having this conversation, and this mug has something to do with that conversation. We're going to talk about that here in a second.
Fabulous.
So, I'm sure you've heard of the term keto friendly, right?
Sure.
Okay. So, back in 2019, I opened up my first restaurant. It was called Keto to Go. We actually did meal prep. So, clients would order their food on Thursday and come in on Monday morning to pick up their meals for the entire week, right? And one thing that I used to always talk about is that our food is not keto friendly. Okay. You're like, what are you talking about? I thought it's called keto to go. Shouldn't it be keto friendly? No. Keto friendly means that it's not that toxic. So I was trying to create a different mindset of what healthy food actually is, right? So we used to always talk about our food is not keto friendly, it's truly keto. What does that mean? When it's truly keto, there's no crap, there's no processed stuff, there's less chemicals in our food, everything from beverages to bread to tortillas. So let's just take this for example, keto friendly bread. In that keto friendly bread, there's starch there, and they call it keto friendly because it's low carb, but it's not really low carb. They put in fake fiber in that. And at the end of the day, we talk about the difference between carbs versus net carbs. Have you ever heard of that concept?
I've not.
Gotcha. So the whole idea with keto friendly stuff, and I'm going to get to the point, is that in keto, you're supposed to have very, very low carbs. Okay. But this huge campaign back in 2020 and 2021, when keto started getting even more popular and the term keto friendly became even more popular, they started coming out with these packages where it's high in carbs, but it's also high in fiber. So for every 1 gram of fiber, you negate 1 gram of carbs. So if something was 25 carbs, but 24 grams of fiber, they were saying that's keto friendly because it's only one net carb.
I see. I see.
But it wasn't real fibers, it's fake fibers and other processed stuff, such as, well, let me take this for, this is the craziest thing right here. Stevia in the raw. Stevia in the raw was created to support diabetics as a sugar alternative. But the number one brand, Stevia in the raw, actually contains maltodextrin in dextrose. And so what I do is I educate my clients on reading the back of the packages, like label reading, right? When you see that there's something there which is the sugar alternative, you're hoping that it doesn't elevate your blood sugar level. So as I educate clients on the glycemic index chart, understanding how high and how fast specific foods elevate your blood sugar levels, the goal and concept is to keep your blood sugar levels low. So on a scale from 1 to 100, 1 being low glycemic, 100 being high glycemic, sugar lands in mid glycemic, real cane sugar. It's on a scale from 1 to 100, it ranges at 62. Well, if you get the wrong stevia, the highlighted brand that we see in the stores, stevia in the raw, that is at 110. It's off the charts. So we're telling diabetics, hey, get the sugar alternative because it's not going to affect your body like sugar would. Okay. But it's actually double and does double the harm. It's at 110. It elevates your blood sugar levels really high. Why? Because it contains two ingredients that our body doesn't know what to do, which converts into estrogen. So maltodextrin and dextrose, that combination is at 110, which is actually worse than sugar. So I don't want to make any statements that will sound too crazy, but back in 2012, there was a lot of misinformation that all these food companies had the green light to rename specific ingredients. Like, for instance, aspartame. You know, I'm not going to sound like I'm a total food snob, right? Because I like my Diet Coke when I have Mexican food or pizza. But aspartame is really, really bad for the brain. And as people started realizing this, the food industry changed its name. So aspartame is no longer called aspartame, it's called amino sweets. And natural flavors contain so many chemicals in which we don't even realize, and it's on the back of the label. So when you see something called amino sweets and they've got rid of the name aspartame, and we see something like natural flavors, it sounds relatively healthy, right? So it's sad because not only have we been duped in the sense of real whole foods, but even these foods that are alternative, that are supposed to be beneficial for us, are worse. And the whole point with this is that this is the mugs I had in my restaurant.
Fantastic. Very nice. You know, it's really sad to me because it is actually quite difficult to eat well. And a lot of people, and I have people who are related to me who have really feel that they are eating healthy food because they're kind of believing the packaging that the food is coming in. And when it has that nice tree on the front, this kind of concept that what's in it is better for you. And it's oftentimes exceedingly deceptively labeled. And we know now that I think it's both Canada and Europe. You're not allowed to play those games with the labeling and with the ingredients of these foods. And Americans, obviously, we have more health problems and more body shape issues now than perhaps any civilization in history ever. And the sad thing is that this is a travesty. It is a real problem, and people are getting really serious diseases the way that you had something that was potentially life-threatening, and thinking, well, I don't know what it was that I did wrong because I try to watch what I eat. And when I was a kid, I think that you and I are roughly the same age. There was this absurdity that was going on with the food pyramid where they were trying to fit the school diet into the food pyramid. And so things like ketchup were labeled as a vegetable, however absurd that actually is. And that kind of absurdity, it's still happening. And we're
It's still
seeing the
happening.
result of it in how unhealthy, how unhappy, and all of these things that Americans in specific actually are. And you know, this is more of a diatribe, I think, but the question that I have for you is, how do you see some of this beginning to change? What's going to change it?
Now more than ever, there's so many people, and thank goodness, in politics that are fighting for this. And there's so many influencers out there that are getting their voices heard, and so many people are starting to find out that these doctors. What's interesting is that there is a lot of MDs in Australia that are huge ambassadors of not only healthy foods, but reversing insulin resistance by essentially doing a short-term ketogenic reset, right? Because at the end of the day, it's not about a diet, it's a metabolic state. But we're so caught up in this country thinking that these different nutrition lifestyles are different diets, right? If we realize that all we're doing is experiencing nutrition therapy. So essentially, okay, I'll get back to this. So essentially what I do as a nutrition cycling specialist is I take people through nutrition therapy. So what is therapy? Have you ever known someone that's experienced a traumatic incident in life in which they had to go get therapy? I
Sure.
mean, the goal isn't for them to be in therapy for the rest of their life, right? The
Right.
goal is for them to, for a lack of better word, sayings, get over the issue, get over the problem, and then you can get back to life. Ideally, right? That's what therapy is created for. So being in ketosis is nutrition therapy, which can help you overcome these issues. So once that information is more available and widely known, people will have a different perception around food. And what's happening in Australia right now is that many doctors and nutritionists and registered dietitians, they're starting to focus and understand that, hey, it's not a diet. All it is switching our metabolic pathways. When we switch our metabolic pathways, we have the ability to utilize whatever was harmful to our body at one point, kind of like alcohol tolerance, right? How does one beer make you feel good if it takes you 30 beers to make you feel good? Just getting rid of it for a short period of time, and then one beer is going to feel good, right? So this information is actually happening, and I just can't wait for it to gain more traction here in the United States. Once again, like I said, information is out there. We just have to know where to search it. So this is happening already down under. Yeah.
Well, and it sounds like, ketogenic, it sounds like almost like a brand name, okay?
Yeah.
But what it is, it's just simply teaching you what your body actually needs, how to avoid things that are toxic to you, when to really get into a reset mode, and then how to maintain a system of health. It feels like a lot of it is education and implementation of understanding how these different things affect your body and your metabolism.
That's right. Exactly. And once we have a better idea and understanding of that, and not everyone has to be a scientist and completely understand all the metabolic pathways, but simply being aware of the fact that we can overcome many of the issues that metabolic dysfunction creates, such as everything as common as high blood pressure, all the way up to feeding cancer cells, right? So nutrition therapy is exactly just that. It's funny because I love to eat out. I'm not strictly regimented, right? Like I said earlier, I have my Diet Coke, I have my poisons with pizza and Mexican food here and there with salsa chips, guac, and beans, all of it. But I don't eat like that every single day, right? As I was 50 pounds overweight and had diverticulitis, I had to go through nutrition therapy for about 4 to 5 months.
Right.
Once I healed my gut, minimized my levels of inflammation, I was able to metabolize poisonous foods more effectively. Here's something very interesting. Um, I mentioned the three different metabolic states. You're either in ketosis or glycolysis, or you've crossed the finish line and you've hit the gold standard of metabolism, metabolic flexibility. When you're in when you're in glycolysis and you're utilizing carbs and sugars as your primary source of fuel, when you eat fat, the fat does not get converted into energy. It gets stored around our midsection and our organs. Does that make sense?
Of course.
But but and if your levels of inflammation are too high, then you're actually not receiving the vitamins and minerals from fat. But when you eliminate carbs for a short period of time and you're now utilizing fats, okay, it takes about 3 to 10 days to eliminate the carbs and sugars from your liver, your bloodstream, and your muscles, known as glycogen storage, right? So when you achieve metabolic flexibility, I can have pizza or spaghetti or rice one day, and the very next day, I can be back in ketosis. Whereas, even if you're an elite athlete, the carbs you have today are going to be in your body for a minimum of 72 hours. That's an elite athlete. Okay. Now, I'm no longer an elite athlete. I'm 42 years old. I exercise here and there. But if I have carbs and sugars today, within hours, I'm back in ketosis. What does that mean? That means my body receives the carbs and sugars and metabolizes it way faster than even an elite athlete, only because I've trained my metabolic pathways to do so. And that's the goal.
When you work with people and you're doing this work and you're watching their lives change, in what way do you notice people's lives transforming?
Oh, wow. That's a beautiful question, right? Because yes, I work with people who are overweight, but I also work with a lot of people with diabetes and Alzheimer's. Within days, if not a couple of weeks, people's mental clarity starts becoming, the awareness levels rise so high, so fast, less pain, better sleep, less inflammation, less joint pain, and just more energy throughout the day. And what I really love about what I do, and this sounds very interesting to most people, is that when someone is overweight, when they first get started on my program, they eat more food than they ever have in their entire life. So when I customize their nutrition program and they see how many calories they're taking in, they say, David, I thought you were going to help me lose weight. I don't even eat this much food right now. How am I supposed to lose weight? Well, understanding that we've all been programmed to believe that low fat, low calorie is the way to go, we cause major complications in our body, hormonal complications. So that's when we start talking about leptin. That's leptin, which is a hormone produced in our pituitary gland. Leptin is a fat burning and satiety hormone. The reason why so many people get into a state of stagnation or hit plateaus and not only are on a caloric deficit, but even fast for long periods of time, well, when there's a lot of inflammation in the body and they're on a low calorie diet and a low fat diet, it simply creates the process of survival. Their body doesn't know the next time they're going to eat. Why? Because they're in a state of stress. So by practicing mindfulness and breath work, they can overcome the stress. And what happens is that they eat more and they start losing weight much, much faster. So what my clients typically experience within the first few weeks is more than any prescription medication can do.
It's,
It's awesome.
this is great. I hear a lot of people go, I went to Europe. I ate more than I ever have in my whole life, and I didn't gain a pound. And it's
Yes.
so different than their experience here because you feel it
Yeah.
here when
Yeah.
you eat. There's a difference in the way that the food interacts with the body, and it's exactly what you're talking about here.
Exactly. I get excited when my clients say, "Oh, okay, David. Well, in a couple of weeks, I'm going down to Mexico or Canada or to Europe." And they say, "What am I going to do when I'm there?" And I say, "Well, look, here's the thing. I want you to have a good vacation. Just understand that if you potentially gain a couple of pounds, like it's totally fine. When you come back, we'll just get right back on program." And I love when the conversation is, David, I didn't gain any weight. I had bread, I had pasta, I had rice, I had all of this. Well, yeah, welcome to America.
Yeah. And that's so
Yeah.
sad, and I imagine you see people um losing weight and regaining their optimal body shape on this. And you did too. You lost 50 pounds over, and that had to be a real shock to you because you were already an athlete. You were already somebody who paid attention to things and you were working with your body and this sort of thing. Can you talk about the kind of healthy weight loss that this creates in people?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, understanding that we're just a big ball, this is my theory. My theory is we're a big ball of bacteria and hormones. And when we're focusing on optimal gut health, okay, minimizing our stress levels, um, and eating the right foods, then our body has the ability to do what it's capable of doing. But when there's a lot of interference, then then it doesn't matter what we do. One of my favorite quotes is by BJ Palmer, one of the initial creators of chiropractic care. He says, "Nature needs no help to progress. It needs no help to progress. It simply needs no interference," right? When we're constantly putting in toxic foods, toxic chemicals into our body, even just a little bit, because sometimes I have clients say, "Oh, David, I'm following the program 95%. I had a little bit of rice." Well, understanding that phthalates can eliminate, or should I say, deplete vitamins and minerals from our body, then it's a different concept. It's a different thought process around food and actually what it does to our body. Yeah.
I want to add to something that you talked about because it's so tremendously important. It's something that I am a real advocate of. It is your diet. It is, and you mentioned stress. It's the stress in your life. It's the things that we put ourselves through. It's the toxic friendships. It's the toxic work environment. It can be the toxic religious environment. It can be many different ways in which we suffer needlessly in our lives and engage in further suffering. It's imbalance in our lives. It's an imbalance between our personal life and our professional life. It's the way that we slam down food at our desk because we don't have the time in our day regularly to stop and to nourish ourselves and to eat things that truly make us feel fantastic tomorrow, that help us sleep through the night. And so if you were to kind of sum up your whole approach and philosophy to what nutrition is and what people should be looking for in their lives, what kind of advice would you put your arm around someone and give them?
Um, to respect food, to put more value on food. Um, here, our medical, our nutrition system, the way that it's set up is that we're supposed to be focusing on counting calories, right? Like counting calories, a unit of energy. So you're telling me I need this many units of energy so that my body can move and go, kind of like a car. Um, so what I would say is that when people respect food and really understand food, then they have a better idea of what they're actually taking in. Like, let me give you this example. Um, if I tell you right now that, 1 cup of avocado is approximately 400 calories, right? Like, what does that mean? Oh, I have 400 units of energy. Really? That's it? Well, when we understand that 1 cup of avocado is not just 400 calories, what it is, it's 22 grams of monounsaturated fat, which supports our cholesterol levels. It has 13 grams of fiber, 7 grams of protein, 56% of your daily vitamin B5 intake on a 2,000 calorie diet, 22% of your daily vitamin C intake based on a 2,000 calorie diet, 850 milligrams of potassium, 60 milligrams of magnesium. So when we dissect food and give the respect that food deserves, it'll respect us. So that's what I really try to educate people on, is really dissecting food and get the whole term of calories in versus calories out. Grab it from your brain, throw it away, and don't even ever count calories again, because it's not about counting calories. The only reason why one would count calories is to potentially lose weight or gain weight. And in this system, what we've done is we told people, hey, as long as you stay below 1,500 calories and you burn 1,500 calories per day by exercising at the gym, then you're fine, right? But when people eliminate processed foods, eliminate toxic chemicals, there's no more interference. Therefore, you don't have to exercise to lose weight. Now, don't get me wrong, I believe in exercise. I believe it's great for our brain, our heart, and our lungs. But when it comes to burning fat, like, our bodies are absolutely amazing. There's an innate intelligence in our body, but when we're creating inflammation and putting in hurdles and obstacles and in problems for our body to solve all day long, then our body is going to stay in a state of survival and we're not going to be able to do what we're capable of doing. We need to respect not only food, but our vessels more than anything else. This is our temple. We should respect it and not just count calories and really understand what food is all about.
Hmm. Here's what I love about you. I love that through your own journey, you discovered so much about yourself. You discovered so much about the state of health, about the lack of our system to be able to truly teach people how to take care of their bodies. And you did something about it. You formed a company that is about educating people, helping people feel better, helping people get in touch with what it takes to make their bodies more healthy. I love that you are out there doing plain speech about how to heal, how to countermand various different things that the medical system tends to play defense on instead of be proactive. I love that you're being one of these voices that is out there putting a stop to this kind of monopoly on health administration that the Western health system has tended to have, and that you are one of these people on the forefront of pushing people to pay more attention to what truly makes them healthy. I love that you're out there giving voice to this, that you're passionate about it, that you're helping people understand what it takes to be mentally healthy, what it takes to be physically healthy, and what it takes to know, honestly, with or without you, what they should and should not be putting in their bodies. I love the personal touch that you bring to this, and I love your personal story relating into this because it makes what you do so powerful. Now, how do people get in touch with you?
So I'm on Instagram and Facebook and my website. So my website is totalmetabolicsolutions.com, formerly known as the Ketogenic Reset. And then on Facebook and Instagram, my Facebook and Instagram pages are at Total Metabolic Solutions.
Well, thank you so much. I want you to make sure that you send those to me because we're going to put those in the description of this episode. And thank you so much for bringing your personal story and what you do to Mindful Mutiny.
I'm so thankful for this opportunity. Thank you, Jeremy. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And please make sure to like and to subscribe to Mindful Mutiny. This is how we grow. Make sure that you join in the conversation on these episodes because we bring really incredible people to you that have wonderful stories and make this world a better place to live in. And remember that in a lifetime, there's more decisions than anybody can count. Living the highest version of yourself is the most rewarding thing that you can do. Make incredible, positive, risky, and bold decisions to be the highest version of you. Now go be something great.